Spring around here is wild. We can get anything. We can get severe weather, we can get nice days, and then we can also get wintry weather. I'm 13 News meteorologist Matt Standridge. Anyone who's been in Indiana for at least a season or two knows that in the spring, we can easily get really cold days that bring some snow shower chances. We've had ice storms throughout the spring season. We've had several times where trees leaf out and then get damaged big time because of heavy snows or even some ice storms. Then you switch over to severe weather. It's a crazy time of year. But I wanted to go ahead and put some numbers, put some percentages for you to look at how often does it actually snow in the springtime. And we're specifically looking at the months of April and in May. And for a lot of this data, we're looking over the past 50 years, since 1985. A lot of these records are kept a little bit better since then. And some of our locations were even keeping records a little bit before that. Indianapolis has been, but not everyone has been. So let's go and just kind of go through a bunch of maps and data just for fun to take a look at what are our actual chances for snow, because it doesn't always happen every year, but it can happen. This is the map across Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio for the past 50 years, averaging our April snow. On average, we actually do get a little bit of snow in April. I'm talking about a little bit. Look at the scale, 1/10 of an inch. In that light blue color, that includes most of Indiana. Once you get north of Peru, north of Marion, we get back into that 1/2 inch. Really overall, expect a little bit of snows in April. You do see a little bit of a higher tendency for some of the lake effect bands, although we really shut down lake effect season really quick there in the spring. We can get a little bit more northeast Ohio and extreme northern Illinois, but here at home, on average, Indy, maybe about 1/10 or so. That would be pretty much about it. A lot of times we can get snow showers that don't really stick. All right, and moving the map forward to May. On average, we do not get accumulating snow in the month of May. We've gotten traces, but I'm going to show you the couple times that we have had snows in May to the point where we've actually impacted the Indy 500. You guys in 1989 know exactly what I'm talking about. Before we get into the specifics of April, May, I did want to touch on Easter. Remember, Easter is different every year. It's determined by the first Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox. So I'll get that all together. So it's a little bit wonky, but in I believe it's April 20th for this year. Look at some of these past Easter snows. According to National Weather Service, back there in 2018, it was Indianapolis's biggest Easter Sunday snow, and it was even heavier north of Indy. Once you got to Crawfordsville and Lafayette to Kokomo, 5 inches, 3 inches in Muncie. So Easter, kind of a good proxy. A lot of times, a lot of folks say, maybe they don't do anything until Easter really outside on the planting, or maybe even Mother's Day. That's even safer. But Easter can be wild around here as well. What about the latest dusting we've ever had on record? So we're at least talking about there at 0.1 inch. So we can have traces. That doesn't really count. When we talk about trace, we've had snow in the air and it kind of maybe just barely wet the ground in a couple spots. We're talking about dusting. We're talking about it actually accumulating. So the latest on record, May 9th in Indianapolis, May 11th in South Bend. It's down to April there in Evansville. We haven't technically had a dusting ever on record there in Evansville. Richmond's data doesn't go back as far, but April 24th and Lafayette's data doesn't go back as far. So everyone's kind of had a different data set, but usually late April, early May is our, that would be our latest dusting. So if you haven't had a dusting by then, you're probably going to be safe. Biggest April snows. What about this? We are just looking over the past 50 years. So keep that in mind. South Bend, over 2 inches. Indianapolis, 3.6. We had a good one there in 2007. That was on April 11th. Evansville, we've had a pretty good snow, 1 incher there in 2021 in April. In May, we actually, over the past 50 years, have not had really accumulating snow. Trace, I don't really count that. We usually count 0.1 inch or more for accumulation. Trace is really kind of just snow showers in the air. They didn't do anything though. But Indianapolis was the only one so far in the past 50 years, and that was 1989, which was the Indy 500. I'll get to that a little bit more. Now, when we go back and look past the 50 years on recorded records, we had a South Bend, over just almost about a foot of snow in May before, but that was, I don't remember the exact day, but it was way in the early 1900s. So it's been a while, but the past 50 years, It's been rare. So what about the latest Indianapolis 0.1 inch snows or more on record? We've got 5 of them. May 9th is the latest at 0.9 inches. The biggest May snow we've had on record was in 1897. That was 2.4 inches. But the one you can't help but notice, got the IndyCar there, checkered flags, May 6th, 1989. 0.2 inches. We had snow delays there at the track. And there have been other cold Indy 500s, but my goodness, this was one to remember. Folks are still talking about it. That was just under 50 years ago, 1989. Snow delays at the Indy 500. Now we usually don't have to worry about that because it's there towards Memorial Day weekend, which when you're looking at some of this data, we usually don't get snow. Could it be cold? Could you have maybe a stray flurry somewhere in Indiana? Maybe, but that would be the very rare instance. All right. When we're looking at the months of May and April put together, what is our chance? How often over the past 50 years have we had snow showers? I think we're going to wrap up with this data because these 2 maps I'm going to show you really kind of indicate how often does this happen. We've looked at some specific dates, but let's talk about how many times do we just have snow showers in the air? And that is data that we got from traces across the state of Indiana. Well, over half the time, over half the years in the past 50 years, we have had some snow showers in April and May. It's pretty easy to do, but that also means, 66% of the time in Indianapolis you've had, but there's a good chunk there, 30, 40% or so, where we haven't had any snow showers in the months of April and May. We shut things down in March. So not every season or every year in the months of April and May do we have snow. So that's something. Most of them do have snow in South Bend and Fort Wayne, but once you get to Jeffersonville and even farther south, Lafayette's tricky because the data didn't go back as far. But most times, especially once you get to really southwestern Indiana, we don't get any more snow in the months of April, May. It happens every once in a while, but most times we don't. These are just for snow showers. What about those dustings? What about actually getting accumulating snow in the months of April and May? Well, for some folks, this is a good map for you because outside of South Bend, outside of Michiana, most times we do not get accumulating snows in April, May. It gets cold at times. I know it does. We get frosts and freezes and that can impact plants and we've had even some ice storms before. But in order to get accumulating snow, the chances are rare. It's only an 18% chance when we're looking at the past 50 years that we've gotten at least 0.1 inches or more of snow in Indy. Down to 14% in Richmond and Lafayette, down to 6% for Bloomington and Evansville. So, as we all know, it can snow in April and May, but for it to actually stick, it's a little bit more rare. So as we're getting through the months of April and May, hopefully this gives you a little bit of hope that the snow season is ending, but in the meantime, it's peak severe weather season. And that's what our weather team is really focused on through the spring season. We're starting to get into peak tornado season, a lot of wind, a lot of hail, and we'll be tracking every system that comes on by. But most times, they will not have snow. Sometimes they will, but most times it will not stick.